Welcome to the Confessions Podcast. I'm Cindy Wagman.
And I'm Jess Campbell. We're two former in-house nonprofit pros turned coaches and consultants to purpose-driven organizations.
After years of building up our separate six-figure businesses from scratch, we've thrown a lot of spaghetti at the wall and have lived to see what sticks.
We're on a mission to help other nonprofit coaches and consultants looking to start or scale their own businesses past the six-figure mark by pulling back the curtain.
Whether you're still working inside a nonprofit and thinking of one day going out on your own, or you've been running your consulting business for years, you understand that working with nonprofits is just different. We're giving you access to the business leaders who serve nonprofits as their clients. You know, the people who truly get it.
No more gatekeeping, no more secrets. This podcast is going to give you an inside look at what running a successful nonprofit coaching and consulting business looks like. Basically, we're asking people how much money they make, how they get paid, and what has and hasn't worked in their businesses.
Listen in as these leaders share their insights, their numbers, and the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to building a nonprofit coaching or consulting business. We're going to empower you to make the power moves that give you the income and freedom you set out to create from day one.
You ready? Let's go.
Woohoo!
We're so pumped you've tuned into the Confessions Podcast, where we're pulling back the curtain on all things nonprofit coaching and consulting. To keep things super fun, we're doing a giveaway to celebrate our launch.
Woohoo! We've rounded up our 4 favorite business goodies to help you build your business. To enter, all you have to do is share your favorite episode on social media, tagging outintheboons_ and cindywagman.com_coaching.
Or DM us a screenshot of your subscription, rating, or review.
The giveaway ends on September 30th. Good luck.
Hey, listeners. I'm Jess.
And I'm Cindy. And we're so excited to welcome you to the Confessions Podcast with Jess and Cindy.
Officially.
Woohoo! Welcome. This is our sort of kickoff episode. And we wanted to just, again, like our podcast is so much about pulling back the curtain that we thought we'd walk the walk, pull back the curtain, and share with you some of our confessions about running a nonprofit serving business. Show you what it's all about.
So who wants to go first? Who has a confession about something that didn't work well in our business, or something we've tried and failed at, or maybe it's something we've invested in, or...
I'm kind of embarrassed about. So for those of you who don't know, my business called The Good Partnership serves small nonprofits in helping them to fundraise. Grown quite a bit over the 7 years that I've been in business. And I've played around with marketing, specifically advertising, like social media advertising, and never really felt like I got great results, or certainly not the results that like all the other people were saying they were getting. And I was like, I should have known to just stop there and like change my expectations. But because we know nonprofits behave differently when they're buying things than other consumers. But no, I invested like $4,500 in a Facebook advertising course, and I regret it. I really felt like I knew 90% of the stuff to begin with, and I don't think it added any value. And I think I was just trying to chase after this like dream that all these other business owners were saying they were achieving, you know, have people buy micro products or tripwires and build your, pay to build your email list, or get paid to build your email list, and all this other stuff. And I was like, our audience behaves differently. So yeah, that's one of my most shameful confessions.
Well, I think to just piggyback off of that confession, can we just confess that building an email list when your audience is nonprofit organizations is hard? Mm-hmm. And I always say that I've spent like over 6 figures on my brain. And the 2 hardest things I've ever done are building an email list and getting my kid to poop in the potty. Like I deserve a PhD in both, and both were extremely challenging. And yeah, I feel like the, Amy Porterfields of the world, or like the Marie Forleos of the world, or like do this one thing and da da da. And it's like, nope, it's so much harder than I ever expected, frankly.
Yeah. And like, I'm not saying don't invest in yourself and in learning new things, because I just posted on TikTok, I think. Like, I just got my year-end finances. Last year, I spent $25,000 on my professional development and training. And where I'm investing that now is so much more strategic and helping me level up as a coach, as, my skills, but not necessarily like selling to nonprofits or advertising or those like super generic, like build your digital business this way. It can be really demoralizing when you invest in those things and you're like, why am I not getting the results? But I definitely still believe in investing in ourselves, just understanding how our audience behaves differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I too, last fall, it's already been a year. I invested like $3,800 to work with this coach that I think is a marketing genius. I think she is the bee's knees. She's amazing. And I paid her $3,800 for 3 hours of her time. And I just knew that it was going to solve one very specific issue that I was working for. Remember, I made the payment in like June, and we didn't have our session until September or October. So you can imagine I was chomping at the bit, ready to go. We have our session, and the way she kind of works is you have a session and then she goes off for like 24 hours and like makes you this plan or delivers these deliverables, whatever. And the next morning we were due to have like a wrap-up call midday, and I forget, emailed or texted me very early in the morning and just said, hey, can I speak to you? And I thought, oh goodness, something has happened. Like I was so concerned.
You failed as a business owner.
And well, I thought something like emergency wise happened. She was like having to reschedule or cancel or something. And we hop on the phone and she's like, so listen, I just have to tell you, I've been up all night. I even woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning to try and get my head in the right space. But your audience is so foreign to me that the amount of work I would need to do to understand your ICA, your ideal client avatar, is just beyond me. And luckily she's a totally awesome human and refunded me my money. But I was just like, so heartbroken because I thought, oh my gosh, if she can't help me, literally there's no one. There's no one. And I think that in the nonprofit space, to your point, we're always looking outwardly to these quote unquote experts. But when you serve people who are entrepreneurs or small business owners, and they're the ones calling the shots, it's just a totally different sales process and buyer psychology compared to who our client is, because they have, I mean, don't get me started on mindset issues, but they also have things like board of approvals, like the money isn't theirs and the decision-making isn't always there. And yeah, that's like a real confession for sure.
I have another confession, but before I do, and what you said sort of triggered this confession, but one of my favorite stories is I actually had a client like say yes to a proposal 2.5 years after I sent it. I was like, how they buy is different. But you were talking about working with this coach or consultant, and she basically fired you, but just because she couldn't help you. And one of my confessions is that I've said yes to business that I should not have said yes to, especially in the early days. And this is something like I really work with my clients, like my coaching clients on now, is like having the courage to turn down work. And it's really hard early on.
It's so hard, especially when you've gone all in, you have bills to pay. I always say like momentum creates momentum. And so it can feel like saying no puts a real brake on that. But man, is it not worth it? Oh my gosh. It's not worth it.
I mean, I have said no, even in the early days. Oh my goodness. I'll tell the story because I feel like our listeners will relate. And it's one of my favorite stories. And I don't tell in much detail because it was so horrendous. But I went to like a business development meeting. So kind of like a pitch meeting, even though we don't pitch, with this executive director. It was a man, and it was in his home office, so in his living room, and it was me and my two female colleagues, totally like, fine. That sort of sets up the dynamic. Anyways, he was like, yeah, if you can do this for me. And he basically was like, yeah, like you kind of said, like, you can whore yourselves out. Like he definitely used that language. And I was like, what? And so I was so shocked. I did not even know how to respond in the moment, that I couldn't even like call him out for it. And actually that was one of the things I really spent a lot of time reflecting on, like, how should I respond in that situation? It was so inappropriate. And like his feelings and beliefs around fundraising, it's not unusual, but like you don't say that to people. And that I couldn't even like say no in the moment. He was like, great, let's do this. We're working together. And I had to follow up by email and say, unfortunately, it's not the right fit. But like so I have turned down clients, but like learning to pick up signals that are a little more subtle than that one around what doesn't make a good client has taken me some time.
I don't know if this is worse, because I knew in this confession that I wasn't a good fit for this person, but a fellow nonprofit consultant said, hey, I have a referral for you. And upon doing some research, I just knew off the bat it was not going to be a right fit. But because I'm a connector, I thought I'll do a phone call with this person and pass business to someone else that maybe is a more appropriate fit. And to make a long story short, he wanted me to be the fundraiser, and I would only earn a commission off of what I was raised. And even though I did not want the business, I told him that was unethical. He was basically shouting at me on this Zoom call, and then he hung up. I've never been hung up on Zoom, but he hung up. And because I'm a storyteller and I do a lot of content, I turned that into probably my one and only viral LinkedIn post. And so it just also goes to show that sometimes these really shitty experiences and stories can make some of your best content. And so to like turn that negative into a positive, it's always there. But yes, I have officially been hung up on Zoom.
Love that. I love that. And yeah, I do think what I admire about you is your storytelling. And I'm constantly learning from you and trying to copy you. But like, I
give you prompts.
Love that those stories, those hardships. I think this podcast relevant to our audience is because we've all been there. Not that all of us have been hung up on, but like a lot of those horror stories we share, and we don't have a space to talk about them.
Switching directions, I have another confession that I think maybe I've told you, but maybe not. This is something I've been reflecting on quite a lot lately. And if I was to go back 5 years and do my business all over again, I would niche down so hard and so fast. I, at the beginning, really prided myself on being a former director of development, a 1 or 2 person shop. So I know how to do a little bit of everything. And because so much of fundraising is multi-pieced, you're never just doing emails, or you're never just doing an ask, or you're never just doing marketing. It's a real combo of things. I thought that leaning on that kind of general skill set was benefiting me. And what it's done, I think, is people ask like, wait, what does Jess really do? And versus some of our friends, like I'll just shout some people out, Tanya Bhattacharya, the LinkedIn queen, personal brand, thought leadership, or I think of Julie Ordonez, who goes deep on all things major gifts, or even Rachel Beerbauer, who is the person I send if you're a small shop executive director.
Yeah.
I just think there's such brilliance in that. And as someone that's 5 years in, and it's really challenging to be like, actually, we're going deep into this, which if I could pick, it would probably be something around storytelling or emails. And that's literally all I do for people, even though I don't want to work with clients at all. I just really wish I would have had that either foresight or mentor or, biz bestie like you are to me, to be like, not niche enough, not niche enough, go nicher, skinny.
I know.
Skinny.
How did we not find each other before? Like we basically met online.
I was a fan of yours. I've been listening to the podcast since I started my business. So,
oh my God, I didn't know that. Thank you.
It's true. Yeah. It's how I know about, I don't know if it's specifically Loom. I think it was you. You had some really great episode with a different company. But
Bonjoro.
Yes. Blew my mind. And now I talk about Loom every damn day. No, I've listened to you for a long time.
Aw, that makes it. I feel like one of the things that for me came out of the pandemic was like, I feel like I know a lot of people in the Canadian market. And I just didn't have that sort of like awareness of all the folks in the States doing really great work. Like I have so many thoughts running through my head right now, but like I knew of like Gail Perry, what's the other woman? Joan Gary. Sorry, their names are just so familiar.
Totally.
And like Pamela Grow and like those people. And I, felt like when I started, and I want to talk about niching down because like when I started, a lot of stuff didn't exist in our sector. And I was learning from all these other places and creating, right? My business model now, for anyone who knows, is like very unique in most spaces. But at that time, like I didn't know everyone. And now I feel like I know so many amazing people and like have met really amazing friends, but also people who we can hop on a call and like just chat through any challenges that we have. And you get it, like, and give good advice because the space that I'm in that I just hadn't found anywhere else.
No, I mean, I think it's something that we both try and teach our clients too, like attach yourself to other people who get it, right? And if you're a nonprofit coach or consultant or service provider listening in on this and you are kind of off on your own island, or like I say, out in the boons, get off, go find some people, like 1, 2, it's been just so helpful to have someone just a text away, a Slack message away. Yeah, I confess I wasn't great at that at the beginning either. And it's changed my business.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say, like 99% of the people I've met in the sector are so generous, like other consultants. I definitely, at least the ones that I've met and the people I want to align myself with and build those relationships with, like there's no feelings of competition or anything like that. There's such camaraderie and support that I think it really builds community. And I'm going to plug, Jess has a Slack community. That's a great place to connect with other consultants and coaches that we'll have to put in the show notes for this. As you said, it can be lonely and it can feel like all those other like business gurus or like thought leaders are not like, they don't get what we do and they don't. So
like literally, I tried paying one. She didn't get it.
They don't get it.
Can we talk about money for a second? A confession of mine, truly, if I did not have to get paid to do this work, I would not get paid. But what I mean by that is like, I need money. I have a certain lifestyle that I prefer to live. It's not off of rice and beans, but I really don't like that part about running a small business, that the money part kind of falls on me. And I don't know if that's compounded by the fact that we work with nonprofits or if I just don't like that part of it. Like, I wish I lived sometimes in the Middle Ages and we could swap, like, we could like trade.
Barter system.
Barter. I don't love the money. And the confession that it is leading to, because I know you're so much stronger in this space, is that it's also resulted in me undercharging for my products and services to this day.
Yeah. And I think like we all struggle with undercharging because our clients are nonprofits and they keep telling us we have no money, we have no money. And like, that's for sure hard. I mean, I've tried to pinpoint where I get my money mindset from because I also not apologetic about the money that I earn and what it does for me and my family and my kids. I want them to enjoy a certain privilege and I want to enjoy it. Like right now, we're planning a trip to Greece next summer and we are renting a private boat with the skipper for a week. And I can't wait. And my kids can't wait. And those are things that having my own business is affording me the opportunity to do with my family. And I'm sorry about that. Over the years, tried to figure out like where that mindset has come from for me, because I've always felt that. And I've worked, I think a lot of people in our sector have worked since they were teenagers, like right through. And I've always worked my butt off. And I will say, like, this is a tangent, but this summer, like as we're recording this, is the first time in my running my business where I've actually prioritized time. I'm still making good money, but I've structured things so that I'm working less hard for that money. And that's a big shift for me because I'm like a workaholic and there's a whole other conversation there. That's my confession. The advice that I've been given that I really like is like, you just got to start charging. And when you get booked, like I've heard people say like, after 3 clients paying one price, increase it, like start to push that. I've also always done value-based pricing, which is like, you're not paying for my hours. I've researched what other people charge for things and I try to be, reasonable within that. And I learned how to do things efficiently so that I increase my profit margins on it. Yeah. The pricing piece, there's an art to it. It's not an exact science. Like it's the reality. Although I do have a friend who had years and years ago, she called it the Barter Babe Project, where she lived a year off of bartering only. So there you go, Jess. But
oh God, it sounds exhausting.
Created services for other things. And like, she's a financial advisor. Anyway, she's super cool and super smart. Everyone has their money stories and those origins are unique to all of us, right? Like very, very often, these are thoughts and beliefs that we have and are formed in our early years. Like what are our parents' relationships with money? What did money mean in terms of our self-worth and value? And what were the stories around money? Like a lot of people have stories around like hard work and money. For me, and I'll be like, again, confession or super open, like money for me and earning good money for me was like very, very early on in my life, or like when I was in my teens, I did not want to have to rely on anyone financially. I saw what money did with my parents and their divorce and the subsequent life decisions they made afterwards, and how money drove a lot of those decisions for them. And I was like, that's never going to be me. And so it
totally. Yeah, I have a lot more work to do for sure. I just know that the clients that I have had where I undercharge tend to be my least favorite and the most work. And the ones where I charge the most end up being like my ride or dies.
Yes.
And the confession is I don't really want to work one-on-one with clients at all anymore. That's been a shift I've been working on for the last year and a half. But I just know that people really struggle out there with the money stuff, and especially charging nonprofits. And more often than not, I'm seeing people really struggle to live any kind of lifestyle, let alone the one they want, because they're having to work double or triple just to make it work.
Yeah. Confession as well. Like, I also don't want to do much one-on-one work, or at least the one-on-one work I'm doing now is with other coaches and consultants who serve nonprofits. I'm not actually working with nonprofits directly anymore. But the actual confession is that, like, it takes time to get there. I think so many of us are sold this idea that, like, you can just start that way. And I've been in business for 7 years. And like I said, this is the first summer where I feel like, or the first time in those 7 years where I felt like, okay, I actually don't have to work like crazy to get the results that I want. And it's taken me a long time to get there. So that's the other confessions thing that you and I have talked about. And a lot of the episodes in this podcast are going to talk about, like, it's like celebrities, right? Or like bands that like get big all of a sudden. No, they've been working behind the scenes quietly, growing steadily to get to that point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's so many confessions that we could probably cover, and we will cover. Mm-hmm. And for anyone else that has a confession that they want to share, feel free to direct message either Cindy or I, and we can use that information and turn it into an episode, because that's what this whole podcast is about, is, just really opening up everything in a really transparent way. I'm like the queen of transparency, because I have just super struggled to figure out and dissect how other business owners serving nonprofits are making it work. And if I can help, and Cindy, I know you feel this way too, if I can help people move along faster or figure it out, more efficiently, like, amen, like, let's do that, because high tides raise all ships. And so, this was kind of therapeutic.
Yeah. And I'm so excited to give you, our listeners, sort of this teaser or intro into what you can expect from our conversations. I want to talk a little bit about that because I'm excited. And I know Jess is too. Like, on September 8th, our guests are Kashana Palmer, Ria Wong, and John and Becky from We Are For Good. And they are all amazing. I feel like all of those people have businesses that you and I have drooled over. We're like, oh, we want to know how they've done this. And they're going to share how they've done this. And then
what an honor, that they say yes to us, and we're not asking them softball questions or asking them the nitty gritty, really detailed ones. And so it's just such an honor that anyone would share about their business in such a transparent way, so that all of you can listen in and hear and learn about it. And so, we're so excited to kick this podcast off with the best of the best, for sure.
The best of the best. And then going forward, just so you know what to expect as listeners, we're going to sort of rotate through. We have nonprofit business owners, people who've been doing this work. Jess and I are going to have some more conversations, candid conversations like this about very specific topics. And we've brought in some of our favorite, not specific to nonprofit experts who we know understand the nonprofit market. So anyone from like PR to money mindset, to like their
pricing, Pinterest, marketing, speaking on stages. Get ready, we've got it.
All the things. So that's what you can expect coming up. We're so grateful for you to share this time with us and hopefully get some really juicy information to help you in your work.
We'll see you on September 8th.
See you then. Thank you again for listening to the Confessions podcast for nonprofit coaches and consultants. If you enjoyed today's episode, which I sure hope you did, you can show your support in one of 3 ways.
Number 1, post a screenshot of this episode to your Instagram stories or LinkedIn profile and tag Cindy and I so we can repost you.
Number 2, share this podcast with a fellow nonprofit coach or consultant.
And number 3, leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts so we can continue to grow and reach new listeners.
And of course, make sure you subscribe so you can get the latest and greatest interviews as they drop every Thursday.
And to our fellow nonprofit coaching and consulting friends, remember, we're an open book and here to answer your burning biz questions.
See you next time.